There's not much to say about this, but I just want to say a little bit of something about it just because. So there's been a lot of talk that black comedians and other black entertainers put on a dress. And according to people like Cat Williams and a few others who side with him, they're saying that, well, they wouldn't have made it to the high status that they would have made it to had they not wore a dress. And had they not put on the dress, they wouldn't be as big as they are, along those lines. And I say this, and the only reason I feel this way is because I could be wrong, and maybe they could be just talking about comedians, but some people kind of interpret it as, well, you're talking about comedians? I mean, what about a lot of black people in Hollywood who are not comedians or not rappers or anything, and they made it big? Wesley Snipes, Denzel Washington, Samuel Jackson, a lot of black stars who didn't put on a dress, Will Smith. Now, recently, I'm sorry, not recently, but recently it's been brought up, but an old video from 2012, 2012, there was a movie that Kevin Hart did called 5-Year Engagement, and I think the movie starred Allison Brie, Emily Blunt, and a few others, Jason Segel. And he was asked about would he wear a dress, and his answer could be interpreted in one of two ways. I want you to hear this and you tell me what you think. I'm going to break down my opinion, but listen to this.
Dave Chappelle, another great comedian, said that, in the industry, they tried to make him wear a dress. Have you ever ran into that with scripts? And is this something that, you wouldn't do, for
I definitely haven't ran into to put on the dress. I mean, you have to have boundaries. You have to have limits that you refuse to cross. For me, I know what they are. They've yet to been challenged, so I don't have to speak on them. I was asked to dribble a basketball on a talk show this morning.
You look
said
good
no to
doing
that. Not that was a dress, but I was like, no, I'm gonna look stupid. At the end of the day, you got to know that you're a brand. I'm a brand. You need to protect your brand at all times. When things happen that can possibly affect your brand, your brand can be diminished, and you don't want that to happen. So, protecting my brand is definitely a priority.
So, I don't know if you heard that. I know the audio on that was kind of, and by the way, I turned up the volume all the way. I feel like the audio on this video should have been a little bit better. But, so he was asked by Jamal Finkley, who works at Black Tree TV. He was talking about how Dave Chappelle and other comedians had criticized other black people for having to put on dress. And he asked Kevin, he said, have you ran into that problem about as far as, putting on the dress, or would you do it? And his exact answer was, he said, I've never ran into that problem, and people have to have boundaries and limits that they refuse to cross. And he's like, I have a brand to protect, and I have to protect my brand. Now, before I dive into the interpretations of that, let me go on Twitter and let's pull up an old tweet that he put up from 2013, which was the year he put on the dress on SNL. And keep in mind, that interview was from 2012. He said, I wore a dress on SNL because I thought it was funny. I made that decision. Nobody made it for me. I am my own boss. And here are some of the comments that say, okay, one person here says, just so long as you don't wear it at home, because the kids won't be calling you boss much longer. Okay. Let's see. This comment here says, say it with your chest. That was a reference from one of his stand-ups. One person here says, if you are your own boss, then why are you explaining your choices? Silence is powerful, boss. Well, I would say that, whether you call yourself boss or not, I mean, there's no rule against explaining yourself. I mean, yeah, he has the choice to explain himself, and he also has the choice not to. So I don't think him explaining himself is damaging him in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I'm not really sure why that part matters. One person here says, no, you wore a dress because every black comedian has to wear a dress. I was wondering what was taking so long. Well, there's a number of black comedians who didn't wear a dress. As I pointed out in the last video, I mean, you had, Mike Epps, Eddie Griffin, Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, Cedric the Entertainer, Bernie Mac, Lavelle Crawford, Arnez J, Ari Spears, D. Ray Davis, Red Grant. a number of them, you know, Cat Williams, a number of them didn't wear dresses. And, you know, and Dave Chappelle is a top comedian, and he's never put one on. So I don't know. So here's why I bring this up. Because a lot of people are saying, so the outrage comes from the idea of him supposedly saying, no, I wouldn't do that because that's a boundary I wouldn't cross. But let's look at it this way. How can that statement really be interpreted? Look at this. When he says you have to have certain boundaries and limits you refuse to cross. Here's the first interpretation of that. The first interpretation is he could be saying, well, no, of course I wouldn't put on a dress because that's a boundary and a limit that I won't cross, so therefore I won't do it. And then a year later he does it, and then people call him out and say, hey, you went back on your word, so that was just an outright lie, and you're a sellout, and you mean nothing. That's way number one of looking at it. Here's the other way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is he could be saying this. He could be saying, well, there are boundaries and limits that I refuse to cross. And I might possibly consider putting on a dress, but there are some things that are further than putting on a dress that I won't do. As far as, you know, performing sexual favors for men and stuff like that in Hollywood, or doing anything of that nature. Because he didn't outright say, yes, I'm putting on a dress. At the same time, he also didn't outright say, no, I'm not putting on a dress. You can tell the answer was kind of in between. So in his mind, he thought like, yeah, the dress is a maybe. But if you ask me to, you know, get on my knees for anything, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And I would really hope he didn't do that. But again, it's Hollywood, and Hollywood is full of a lot of stuff, and we're not there. We don't really know all that goes on. So all I'm saying is I just want people to be clear and think like, because he didn't outright say it. A lot of people are saying, oh, he said he never put on a dress. Actually, he never said that. He just said there are limits and boundaries I refuse to cross. And maybe in his mind, the putting on the dress wasn't the boundary part. Maybe there are other things that could be the boundary that he didn't mention. And I don't know if he's ever going to do an interview in the future where he's going to be questioned about that and they're going to really press him hard on it. But at the same time, like he said, he's his own boss, so he doesn't necessarily have to explain himself on that. But I will tell you this. It seems like most of the people who were a fan of him before he put on the dress are still fans of him. And to be honest with you, obviously I'm one of them. You know, and I'm a fan of many people who happen to have put on a dress, but it's not because they put on a dress. It's just they happen to be funny with it. And a lot of them are funny without it. I mean, case in point, as I said before, Martin Lawrence is one of those people that is just hilarious almost no matter what he does and almost no matter where he goes. I mean, this guy did all these stand-up specials. You know, You So Crazy, Run Tell That, Doing Time. That was all hilarious. You know, he had his movies, you know, Big Mama's House, where he did put on the dress, and that was also hilarious. Had a sitcom show, hilarious. He was hilarious playing himself, and then he was also hilarious playing Shanae and all them. So, I mean, it's open to speculation. I mean, what do you think? When he made that statement, what do you think he was really saying in that? So you tell me what you think. Like and subscribe. I got more coming.